Welcome back, everybody. Today we are in storage building. We're working on a client's boat. We're going to be doing some gel coat correction and polishing, getting it ready to take a sealant. We're not going to do ceramic on this boat. We might do a small section of ceramic. I can talk about that in a little bit. But for now, we're just going to be compounding, getting the gel coat perfected, polished up, and then we're going to work on sealing it. So I thought I'd walk you through, show you a little bit about what we're going to do, how we start with the boat. This is a perfect opportunity because the boat needs quite a bit of work. Start from start to finish, show you all little tips and pointers along the way. So often enough we get people that ask, I just want my boat buffed and waxed, or it's just, they usually just loop those two together, and it's just, it seems like it's a very basic, all I need is buff and wax, an easy buff and wax. Well, it's not always that simple, and so I thought I'd start from the beginning. If we have someone that asks, can you come out, give us a look, tell me what it's going to take to get my boat shiny again, or to get ready to wax or whatever. So we typically, I don't shoot from the hip and just say over the phone, I've never seen the boat, oh yeah, it's only going to take me 2 days to do the boat or whatever. So I like to get eyes on it. This is a perfect example why. So we were told the gel coat on the top hasn't been worked on in a while, so it might need some work. So I'm going to break it all down and show you the process, what we do. So we have a tool called a gloss meter. Now this meter, when we put it to the gel coat, will actually show us, give us a reading, a numerical reading on how shiny, how glossy the actual gel coat is at this time. So I'm going to just kind of walk through the steps and show you where we're at, what we do to get it to the process through to where we need to then apply a sealant, whether it's a wax, a polymer sealant, or a ceramic, and again, kind of shows the steps, maybe a couple tips how we're doing it along the way. But again, I don't know that everyone always understands. If they're not actually physically doing it, there's a couple extra steps involved. So here we go. So I'm going to start in a small little area. I'm going to tape off a small section. So we'll do what we call a test spot. So if someone asks what we can do for their boat and wants to see the process that we do, we can go through the process, show them this is what your boat could look like in this small section, and then they'd say, yes, I'd like you to take the steps and to do this, or I don't need all that work. I don't care if it's super glossy or whatever it is. So I'll show you the steps and we'll go from there. Okay, so we've got it taped off. We're quite a bit dusty because we're in storage. So I'm just gonna clean it up here. Now you can see here, that's our light, right? That's the light that I'm using. I'm gonna take this cover off, so it's gonna become brighter. And then you can look in here, and you can't really see the actual detail outline of that light. You just see that it's a shiny little bar. As we buff it up and as we compound it down to remove the imperfections and the oxidation, we'll get to a point where you can see that very, very clearly. So that helps us see where we're getting and how we're improving the current situation of the gel coat. So first, take our gloss meter, and we're going to go through the steps of how to use the gloss meter. All right, so first we're going to take our gloss meter. It's got a little cap on it to make sure it's, so this little cap, you see this reflective location here. So we're going to put this is the actual reader portion of the gloss meter. We're going to put it on here, take a reading, press this little button here, take a reading, and then see that last reading in yellow comes up at 93.7. That's how shiny how glossy this little mirror is. And you see it's actually pretty darn glossy there, right? Now I'm going to come here, put the gloss meter. We just set this right flat on a flush surface, push our little button, and that comes in at a 10.1. Now, in terms of glossiness and what are you looking at, what's a normal number, what does 10 mean, what does 91, 93 mean? If it is coming, oh boy, a little too bright. If it's coming straight off of a factory floor, boat is just off a brand new delivered, typically you're looking at a range of 80 to 90 is your gloss meter typical reading. That's before any additional polishing up. Of course, they typically have a boat pretty shiny and new off the factory floor, but there is still improvement that can be made. Now again, we're starting at a 10 right here. So now I'm going to do the first step, which is a heavy cut compound. So I'm going to take a heavy cut compound with our rotary buffer here. This is just a rotary wheel that we will use. This is a wool pad. We've been using it earlier, so it is a bit dusty, but that's just because this is oxidation and dried up compound. You hear Cole in the background. He's working on the hull of the boat right now. But so we have up here, we buy it in bulk because we're going through so much of it, but this is just a thick paste which is used as a this is the heavy cut compound. It's a very gritty cutting. It's almost like sandpaper. So typical compounds and polishes will have a grit factor. In other words, it's as if you're using a X number of sandpaper, whatever grit that would be. So it's just in more of a liquid or paste type form. So it's a little easier to work with the polisher. Now you can always add or use a actual sanding with a dual action polisher, whether it's wet sanding, which would give a little more lubrication between the gel coat and the sanding pad. I don't think this boat is that far gone where we actually need to sand it. We probably could, but we're just going to do this steps for sake of time in this video today. So here we go. So I'm just going to add some spots here just to kind of give me some product to work with, and then I will take the polisher, rotary buffer, and work in up, down, and then side to side, up, down, side to side, and work this in. Probably have to do quite a few passes and add some more product, and we'll go from there. So I'll do a little speed along and show you the process. So doing it slow like this will help move the product around without slinging it all over the place. Because if your boat's next to a guy that's getting buffed and someone comes in, slaps on a bunch of product and it just starts ripping this wheel, product is going flying everywhere, dust and or actual paste, and then your boat's dirty as heck too. So we try to spread it out a little bit slowly before. That's what the little pulses was. So now you can come to see, where's my trusty microfiber. Now do a little wipe just of the product itself. And in just that one basic step, I'm going to pull off this light here. We're already getting a lot better, so you can see much more clearly what the camera looks like. You can almost see the whole reflection of the background. But if you look, I'm trying to see if I can get the right angle on it. If you look from the angles of this light, you see what they call holograms. It almost looks like kind of a rainbow type hologram along here, swirls. Or if you look really closely, I don't know how well it'll show up in the camera, but you see slight scratches, right? So because this is a heavy cut compound and it's very gritty, like a sandpaper, it's adding, and because this machine just swirls in a circle, as opposed to a dual action polisher that we'll cover later, this swirling is just creating what you see, those holograms, and then those actual swirl marks, which looks like scratches. So I'm going to do one more pass with this, and then we'll go to the next step. Just do a little wipe, and again I'll pull this off. Oops, already off, and show again how much more clearly, just in that short amount of time, we can see the light that's right there. So the amount of clarity that we're getting now. So now let's go back to the gloss meter. If you remember our last, dust that off a bit, our last reading was at 10.1. Now we put it back on, press the button. Already back to, that was quick, back to 91.7. That was a pretty quick upgrade. So that's a quick transformation from 10 to 90. Now I'll tell you, so this is a Princess Viking 58, a V58, 2009 I think. This, I've been told the gel coat on the Princesses is pretty soft. So there's every vessel, every brand has a slight different, obviously, recipe that they're using. So some gel coats are a little more hardy, and some are a little softer. So working with one or another, not every boat, even from boat to boat within the same brand, can be different to work on. So far so good. This is looking really nice. Now we'll go to the next step, and I'll continue to show you the steps along the way. In the storage building, we get a little bit of furry feathered friends up here, guy 1 and 2. So that's again, your boat can get pretty dirty pretty quick in storage, which they do. This place does wrap them in the plastic, which I do think is helpful. From, you know, for again, if we're having any dust working on this boat here, we're not spraying it all over that vessel because he's wrapped and covered up pretty good. So that is helpful. They will still get dirty. It is what it is. It's a factor of storage, but that's why we clean it once she gets out of the water, or back in the water, that is. So a little breakdown of the tools, right? So I mentioned before, this is our Dewalt rotary polisher. So this is our Dewalt rotary polisher. It's a between 7 and 9 inch polisher. Model number is DWP 849X. So the one we use rotary is either Dewalt. It's got speeds for your amount of RPMs spinning in the wheel. Start low with the heavy cut compound, and as you get to more of a polishing step, which is what we're getting at next, you can crank it up a bit, kind of heat it up, and get at the gel coat that way. Now for our next step, typically use what I was mentioning earlier is a dual action polisher. Now the dual action, we use a foam pad. This is a kind of again a medium cutting foam pad. This is the Rupes Bigfoot. There she is, Rupes Bigfoot. And now this is like they call a long throw polisher. So as the wheel spins on this one, see it rotates. It will rotate around and wiggle at the same time. So it's dual action. It's not just typically one spinning action. So as I mentioned before, you can see some swirl marks in here because of the rotary is just going in circles. This dual action will come with a secondary cutting compound, more of a diminishing abrasive medium cut compound that diminishes as you heat it up, and as you use it, it'll diminish into a polish. We're going to use this, which is again a medium cutting pad, to go at it, remove these swirls and remove these holograms that you see here, and then this should start shining up really, really nice. And after this second step, this should be ready for a coat, whether it's again wax, polymer sealant, ceramic coating. Now the reason we do test spots like this is because some vessels, some spots might need 3 passes, might need 1 pass only, 2 passes, whatever it is. So this helps us calculate in our minds how long it's going to take us to do the job and to get it to where we want it to be. So it takes a few extra steps in the beginning, but this will last longer, be better in the long run. So spread a little bit out here, and there's no rhyme or reason to that portion. Sometimes you can just drop it on here, but I'll spread it around. We've already got some of it ingrained in the pad there too, because we've been working on it down at the hull. So here we go. We're able to clean it up. I'm going to remove this. Now we see that super clear. We can actually start seeing the camera in there. Now let's go back to our gloss meter. So where we started at was 10.1. And we got to 91.7. Now with the polish, let's see where we got. $96.2. Now, if you go and put on a wax or a polymer sealant, but more specifically, if you went and put on a ceramic coating to this, which ceramic coating will add an even more of a pop and a gloss, and you've seen in a couple other little tidbits I put out there that how much the ceramic coating will add to the shine and brightness of the gel coat. We'll go from that mid 90s or 80s number up to over a 100 plus. So we've got, on one of our last vessels, we were up at 102.5. So imagine this is 90 something. From there, stepping it up even more, that thing is just going to shine and glow all year long. So continue on, and we'll do it to the rest of the boat. So let's go back and show you where we started and where we're at now. So good shine factor there, really nice, easy to see. And now you can't even see the camera. So those are the steps that we take to get to where we want it to be. All right, so this kind of broke down a little bit of the process. Again, I could get into super nerdy and get really deep into it, but essentially to start, we've got, we start with a untouched, oxidized, or just dirty gel coat and faded or whatever it is. We need to get to a heavy cut compound, some sort of heavy cut, which will take away with the grit, and the heavy cut compound will start eating at the oxidation. The gel coat is porous, it's soft, soft enough to work at, and we'll polish, we'll rough that up a bit, get off the oxidation, go next step to a medium cut or a diminishing abrasive into a polish. So that's why we went with, on this test sample, we only went with 2 steps. Essentially, it's a heavy cut compound down into a medium cut / polishing compound. From there, we will coat it once we get the rest. So from here, again, this is clean, that's not. That was one of our other test spots over there. The rest of it's, of course, dirty. So we're going to get to all this and clean it all up, get it all looking good. We did one other test spot over here that I just showed you. We've got, this is nice and cleaned up. We just wanted to sample it and make sure it's easy enough to get done. Now this is actually under a sun pad that's going to go here, but honestly, I would, I'm not going to skip around a step, because when someone wrecks this up and the sun pad seating is up, and if you see non-polished and then polished, that would eat at my mind, and I couldn't get that done. So I'm not going to skip that step. So we're going to finish this part up here. We still have the hardtop to do, so we'll have to get up there and do the hardtop. That's a sunroof that opens up on this boat. So we'll get that. Again, talking about some of the stuff that we're using, talk about, this is a wool pad. It's dual-sided, so then if we're working on, you know, in these angles, and we need to kind of really level this, put this polisher on an angle. The angle will actually help it cut a little more, because it puts a little more pressure. As you see, if it's on a taped up on an angle, it's really really getting in there and eating at it. But then additionally, if you needed to get under a bow rail, for example, you can get under here with the polisher and not worry about a hard surface scratching at this. So this is why we kind of like a, and then this also helps us to polish up the actual railing itself too. Now, another product that we can use, another pad, this is a synthetic wool pad, purple wool pad by Lake Country. We like this pad, and we use this on our dual action polisher, our DA polisher. This is what will come in here and give a little bit of the heavy cut like this will, but it'll also polish. So really nice option there, really will shine it up. So then we have the orange foam pad on the polisher that we were using earlier, and from the orange pad then you can go into a couple different lighter colors. There's a white pad and a gray pad that will give you a little less cut. So it all depends on the current state of the gel coat and the current how much cleaning and polishing and perfecting we need to do. So anyways, that kind of breaks down a little bit of the steps, the process. Again, you're looking at a 58-foot boat here, which has a lot of surfaces, a lot of angles, a lot of different spots that need to get polished. So you're looking here you know, there's an angle here, down into here, there's another angle here. This here is non-skid, so we won't be polishing that. This will be cleaned at a different time. This can be polished though too with a rotary polisher with the wool pad. Typically you'd have the wool pad on a full on an angle, twisting like this, and it can eat away and clean up these kind of the grit within here, because the non-skid is typically made so it doesn't makes it obviously not as slippery for guests walking to and from the boat. But again, then we've got corners and angles, so if everything was perfectly flat and flush, it'd be a lot quicker and a lot easier, but it's part of the job. So all right, so we finished the heavy cut compound step, we finished the polishing step. Now is the sealant step. We've already been going through, Cole's been going through this boat. We're on the hull underneath it right now. So as I mentioned before, the last and final step being the sealant step is much easier. It's like the wax on, wax off movie type stuff, where it literally is just putting it on, letting it dry to a haze, about 30 minutes to an hour, and then coming back and wiping it off. So we're doing it over here. Cole's finishing up with one of our last steps. What you'll see is the haze that it's creating. So you'll see it looks like swirl marks or whatnot, but that's just actual product that's been left on the boat. We're gonna let that dry. We just did nice, again, easy, no major pressure, just up, down, side to side. It looks like it might be flashing, sorry with that light. But from there, once we get the whole boat done, which this whole side is just about to be finished, this whole side has been finished. That whole side, the starboard side, was just being finished. This port side has been finished and it's dried to a haze. And again, you can see a bit of the swirl marks within here because it's the haze that's just drying. But now, here is where I started to wipe it off. So what you do is wipe it off, and now it is protected, and you can see the reflection in here is incredible. Really clean. So now we're gonna go in, bring out the gloss meter, and we are at a 101 on the gloss meter reading. So we're getting that super shine that we like. Again, this is just with we have just here applied, ooh, that is bright. So we have just applied the polymer sealant. Again, it's not a wax and it's not a ceramic, it's right in the middle of the two. So easier process, similar to a wax, but the shine is not nearly as amplified as you would get if you did a ceramic coating. So we're at a gloss meter reading of 101 now after doing the multiple steps, a heavy cut compound, medium cut / polish, and then now the actual coating of the sealant, of the polymer sealant. So we have a super gloss, we have a super shine, but it's not as hardcore as you would get with a ceramic coating, but that is still a pretty shiny boat. And we are gonna see this water bead really well in the summer for the first couple months of the season, as before the sealant starts to eventually degrade. Again, we use, during our wash program, we use pH neutral soap versus a kind of a heavier deck cleaner type soap, which will have more aggressive compounds and more aggressive materials, chemicals that would clean it and kind of wipe then away the wax and the oils. So sometimes people wonder, why does I just got the boat wax, it looks great, but why does it not stay long? Part of it is, what are you using to clean it? Are you using Dawn dish soap? Are you using a bleach type water mixture? Or are you using a nice pH neutral soap that's just on there to help loosen any of the dirt particles and whatnot? Really good reflection in there. I think it's pretty killer. So boat's gonna look great for the summer. We're gonna go up to the top side now, finish the top sides. Hulls are done, finish the top sides, project over. But wanted to give you the breakdown of the multiple steps that we do, pads we use, machines we use. Hopefully that helped a little bit. Drop me any notes in the comments if you have questions, something else I didn't touch on or want more details on, and I'll try to get it to you. I appreciate you being around. Cheers. See you soon.